Hi, Kyra.
Hi, guys.
I just want to ask what it means to you for playing for Ireland. I think you qualified through your grandparents, and how much of an Irish connection you've had growing up, etc.
Yeah, it is. I'm always incredibly humbled, and I feel very privileged to be able to represent the Republic of Ireland. The Republic of Ireland on a national team stage. And yeah, actually, I qualify for my Irish citizenship through my grandparents. On my mom's side, my papa and my granddie, they immigrated to the U.S. from Ireland, and I am lucky enough to be able to establish my Irish citizenship through them, through the kind of a grandparent clause of establishing Irish citizenship. And it's something very, very special. Coach of mine at Georgetown, Dave Nolan, he is Irish, and when I was playing there in my graduate year in college in America, he was always like badgering me about he's like, you could be an Irish citizen, like this is such an opportunity, and this is something that you should really consider, and playing on the Irish national team is something that's attainable for you. So you should really consider doing this. And I'm so happy that my grandmother kept all of her original birth certificates, marriage certificates, immigration paperwork, because if she hadn't, I wouldn't even be able to be sitting here today. So yeah, it means the world.
Okay, and just a quick question about, I see you scored the winner again in the Danish League on Saturday. Will you have any insight on the Danish players we're going to come up against on Thursday?
Yeah. Thank you for keeping up with our games and stuff. I did. It was our first game of league. We played Fortuna, a very challenging kind of a top-tier team. So it was a great way to start off our second half of the season. And I definitely can. The Danish team, they'll have quite a few players from the Danish league brought in. One of them, some of the bigger names would be Nana from Brøndby, and she is currently the second top scorer of the league. She is a fantastic technical player. She's a goal scorer. Always very impressed with her. She also has another teammate with her, Josephine, and she's kind of like this little six, very technical player. I believe she's actually going to America to play at Harvard University next year, so she's always a good player to play against. They also have some younger players, a girl from FC Nordsjælland. Her name is Catherine, and she is very young and this is now her first opportunity to play with the team. And she's a very impressive player, a young talent in the Danish league. A lot to look forward to for her in her future. And also a goalkeeper from Kolding, Lena. She is also a young talent, very impressive goalkeeper, definitely for her age as well. But yeah, they also have Fortuna, the team we just played yesterday. They have a few players coming in, Emma and Olivia, who are both kind of a 9 and 10 up top. Very crafty players. Ball always seems to stick their foot, and always a challenge to play against. But yeah, I'm definitely impressed with the people they brought in. They're giving some opportunities to some players that have really proven that they deserve that opportunity. And for me, I'm excited to see some familiar faces out there.
That's great. Thanks, Kyra.
Yeah, of course.
Ralph Tallow.
Hi, Kyra. How's it going?
Hi.
What's the style of play like in the league in Denmark, and what's the adjustment like then when you're linking up with Ireland?
Yeah, style of play. I would say that on kind of a European stage, the style of women's soccer is quite similar in terms of if you were comparing it to something between country to country in Europe rather than to the U.S. Very focused on the technique and the tactical side of play. It's very, very important, especially for a team like my team, Hubbaker. We are a bit younger, and a lot of we have a lot of focus on kind of developing those relationships, those tactical relationships between players, and really getting them to get comfortable with that and kind of developing their soccer IQ, which is fantastic. And as a 25-year-old, I still am developing my soccer IQ every day with them. And I think that that's what's nice about when I come to the Irish team. I think Vera and our staff here are very focused on that as well. I mean, we're players who play in all different countries from all different leagues and are very different in age as well. And like to come together, it's so important to all be on the same page with tactics and understanding of our style of play and our game, as well as our opponents. And so it's good to see like that kind of focus here is very similar to what we do in Denmark as well. And I love that. And it makes it a bit easier when you come into camp.
Yeah, and just one final one from me. So in terms of how Vera and her staff kind of keep up to date with you, and then yourself, I suppose, keeping in touch with the Irish setup, how does that work? Especially in COVID times as well.
Yeah. COVID definitely doesn't make it much easier. But Vera and the staff are always up to date on the games we play. I make sure that she has access to them always, whether that's before the game, if she can watch, or afterwards as like film and such. But yeah, she's always my biggest supporter, especially for those wins and those goal-scoring opportunities, which is really it's a confidence booster, and it's a good thing to know that our coach at this stage is, making it a priority to make sure that she stays in touch and in tune with that. For me as a player. So when I come in, she's comfortable with me. She's kind of seen me play for the last few weeks, and it's, not being able to travel, like you said, with COVID, it makes it much more difficult for a coach to kind of get that feel of how a player is and how they're doing and how they're performing. But, she's doing the best she can to make sure that she can do those things. So much appreciated.
Thanks, Kyra, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Switch to embargo section on Cowser.
Hey Kyra, firstly, what are your grandparents' names?
Yeah, so my papa, his name is Tony Lucy, and my grandy, her name is Burl Lucy, and my grandy is my only grandparent still with me today, and my papa had passed quite a while ago, but yeah.
Do you know what his was from?
Cork. Sorry, did it phase out a bit?
The sound is not great from.
Yeah.
Is everybody except on go on mute, please? I think go again. Did you hear that now? Our grandparents from Cork.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks. And then now you mentioned there that you were being pushed towards declaring for Ireland. So did you contact the FAI, or were they aware of you or in touch with you?
Yeah, actually, the FAI they were aware of me before I was of them. When I was younger, probably before I even went to college for soccer, they were kind of expressing a lot of interest and in touch with coaches I knew. And at the time, I didn't even know what the process of that would look like to kind of like step into that role and move in that direction. I was playing a bit with the U.S. team as well, so like it kind of, you're just young enough where you're thinking like one step ahead at a time. I was like, I'm going to college. I don't even know what a national team soccer would even look like. But yeah, no, Dave definitely like opened that door for me and like was kind of like, hey, like I know the coach, like I know the coaching staff. They've talked about you a bit. They know of you, and it's definitely something to look into and to consider at this point in your life, that like it could be a really huge opportunity. And I'm really happy that he had kind of suggested that and encouraged it. I would say more of anything, like he was always the first person to be my advocate for doing what was best for me, and I do appreciate him for kind of like pushing me that direction. Yeah.
See, you studied what, Stanford and Georgetown. What were you studying?
Yeah, so in my undergrad at Stanford, I studied human biology, and I really thought I wanted to get into like the medical field, be a doctor, like all that jazz. And then in graduate school, I did integrated marketing and more of a business side. I did a lot of consulting work and worked with nonprofits and startups in DC and in New York, which was very different. I like to think of myself as very versatile when it comes to education now at this point. But yeah, if anything, like very very privileged to be able to have both those degrees and let those opportunities come to me because of soccer. But I know that playing professional soccer and continuing this journey of mine is what I want to be doing and most passionate about. So that's what I'm sticking to for now.
Just what are the hopes this week? Like 2 games, a chance to win more caps?
Yeah. I think the hopes this week are really just to see different sides of our team. And I think that every opportunity, first of all, to be able to be in for camp is huge. To be together, to train with one another, to get familiar with one another again. It's such a great thing that we can do and something that we can celebrate, but also just seeing different sides of our team. I think in the last 12 months, we've developed so much. And even in the last 4 months, like we've had each of these girls have had pre-seasons and training matches and just started up the league again and are playing in different countries. And so I think that we all kind of have different sides of us that we've developed, and it's going to be such an opportunity to show our coaching staff and have our coaching staff be able to work with, kind of different sides of us as players.
Thanks very much.
Of course.
Dave Kelly.
Hi, Kyra. Just a mini deep dive on your mother, especially because my antecedents are Laois as well. Do you know whereabouts in Laois she's from?
My grandy. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's Thomas from Laois, is he?
Oh, yes, he is. Yeah, how funny. Yeah, he is. Yeah, from Laois. My grandy's from Laois, and then my papa is from Cork, but my mother, my direct mother, she was born in the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you know where from Laois, where your grandmother's from?
And do you know where
sorry, I don't know specifically where she's from in Laois, no.
And when did they arrive in the States?
They arrived the late 50s.
Okay. A popular time. Well, always a popular time for immigration. And in terms of any kind of Irishness growing up, I mean, did you have anything passed down in terms of, stories or, any kind of link? I mean, did you kind of link into what was happening over here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. A bit, yes. I actually was lucky enough to be able to travel to Ireland a few times and go around the country a few summers when I was younger and visit my family, which was always lovely. We'd go in the summer. It was great. But more importantly is kind of back in the U.S., I think the biggest thing was always the food. When it came to the kind of food I grew up with my grandparents, it was always Irish. And it was we had anything from big Irish breakfasts that we still have for holidays. It's the best thing. I wouldn't have it any other way. It doesn't feel like it's Christmas or Easter if you don't have an Irish breakfast. It's just not the same. And as well as stories. I remember in college, I actually went to school. Stanford is up in San Francisco, which is where my grandy lives. And I would visit her every other weekend, and she would talk about just growing up with all her siblings. And her dad was a math teacher, and at night he would teach the girls arithmetic and math by the fire, and how her siblings would go off to nunneries, or they would go and study elsewhere and tandem bike through the small cities of Ireland and stuff. And I always thought it would be the coolest thing to write her life in a book and just document it for her, and who knows, just for myself and my siblings and stuff. And so I still think she's still here with us, so it's definitely something I would still want to be doing. But I think definitely had our fair share of lovely Irish stories that then when we got to travel to Ireland, we actually got to see these things, and just as simple as kissing the Blarney Stone. It was something that we were always talked about, or where our relatives would kind of poke fun with us about, and then getting to actually do it, you're oh well, I really could do it now, and I'm truly Irish. But yeah, it's always I always think of the fond memories that they would share with us about Ireland, and even their journeys coming back over and stuff, because they were the first of their family, their entire family, they all were in Ireland. And they were the kind of the first two to be like, why don't we just, take this opportunity, go to the US? They were only supposed to be here for a year, and it turned out like, being a life, but like, yeah.
Yes, it's an important emotional connection. Yeah,
absolutely, definitely something that even now I feel at this time in my life, I feel so happy to be able to like be more immersed into it and have even more reason to be. And I mean, it's just, I feel like my siblings as well, now that I have my Irish citizenship, they all want to jump on board with that, and they're like, absolutely, like to be able to like, bring this part of our life back into what we do now is like everything, means everything to them. So I'm really happy about that. I feel like it's kind of like this like kind of a childhood memories and like kind of like old traditions that we're kind of bringing back, and it's really special. Ireland is very, very special to us.
Okay, John, do you want to? Yeah.
Kyra, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good. Just a couple from me. The first one, just you mentioned there about that work you did, I think during your college time with the non-profits. Can you just tell us a bit about that? Were you working with charities or anything of that sort, or what was particularly rewarding from your behalf?
Yeah, so actually, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. It's something that I really like to talk about. Yeah, so at Georgetown in DC, I took a class called Cause Consulting, and it is a class where you become a consultant, you work with a team, and you consult for nonprofits only. So for an entire semester, we got to work with a specific nonprofit. We worked with a nonprofit in DC called AIHA, and they do a lot of kind of connecting medical staff in the U.S. with third world countries and countries with developing foundations, like trying to develop their foundation in like hospitals or hospital administration and efficiencies in healthcare and such like that. And then being a human biology major in my undergrad, I was like, this sounds like exactly what I should be, something I could be doing. And it was a really rewarding process and a rewarding kind of experience because of it gave me if you don't like thinking about nonprofits and like thinking about the work that could be done with a nonprofit, it sounds incredible on the outside, but when you're working on the inside of it, it's very difficult to kind of get all the moving parts working the way you want it to, and kind of for that common goal of just improving the world in some sort of way. But what I loved was that the difficulties were just as rewarding, because at the end of the day, your mission was to kind of improve this healthcare system in places that like it's proven to work, and like in places that really truly need it, and like to have resources like we do in the US, whether that's just doctors and staff and people who have built entire hospital systems from the ground up, and having that knowledge and that ability to do that, and being able to connect them with countries that don't necessarily have that one little step. It was very, very special, and it also made me feel like you were just a part of the team immediately. Like once you're under the same umbrella of the common goal, and like you're working with like these people who've been with the nonprofit for years, and like you simply come in as just to for a few months to be a consultant for a class, but you suddenly have this rewarding experience of like fighting for the same goal, which is really, really cool. I loved it. I'd never worked with a nonprofit before that. I feel like the nuances of it are so important, and I think that almost anyone working in business should absolutely have the opportunity to work in a nonprofit just to understand that kind of side of work and how important it is. Yeah, but it was really cool. I loved it.
Very good. And you mentioned there about you had some involvement with the US women's national team. Can you just tell us a bit about that? Was it an underage? And as an American native, how difficult that is in terms of the quality and the standard that you're up against?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was younger, I had my club coach who first initially kind of introduced me to both the U.S. team and the Irish, kind of the opportunity of the Irish team, Ada Greenwood. He really was an advocate for me to kind of like get involved with with either national program. And so when I was younger, I did a few things with the U.S. national team. Mostly when I was in college, I played with the U23s, and we played in some camps together, some friendly games in the U.S. And yeah, it is just like it is here. It is difficult, very, very difficult to be the best of the best in your nation, and to perform at a level with people who all kind of have that special talent or mentality or grit that gets them there. It's very, very concentrated, and it's crazy to kind of see you're suddenly working in a group of people who kind of all have that that little extras pep in them, or whatever that may be, that brings them to where they are. And especially with the U.S., it's a massive country. The pool of players is just never ending, and all very impressive. But ultimately, I think it was really cool to be playing with the U23s, to kind of understand, give you the confidence that you deserve to be there, and you're there because of something special you bring. Sometimes that you forget about that. And even now, to be able to step into the full Irish team, I feel like, having not had that U23 experience with the U.S. national team, I would definitely have brought in a different kind of mindset coming into the full team here as well, just because you get here and it's the same kind of environment. Two different countries, yes, but same mentality in the players, same kind of professionalism, the day in, day out grind of a professional soccer player. It's all on the same playing field. So yeah, it gave me a kind of a sense of confidence to fall back on and be look at you've been in these positions before, and these people only make you better. These environments only challenge you to make you better. And I'm so happy to bring that mindset in every time I come into camp now.
And was there anyone from that squad or around your age group who went on to establish themselves in the US team? Yeah,
of course. So I played with players like Tiana Davidson, who is playing as center back with the U.S. national team now. Katarina Macario, she's from San Diego as well. I grew up in the same club as her and grew up with her, and then played at Stanford with her as well. And she's playing over at Lyon now. And she has just the world ahead of her in terms of her career with the U.S. team and her career as a professional soccer player. And Alana Cook is also a center back who I played with at Stanford, and she plays with PSG, and she's now currently in camp with the full team as well. And again, so much promise, so much talent there, and also great person. And Andy Sullivan is also a good friend of mine who I played with at Stanford. We were both the same year, and talk about, she was paved the way for Stanford, this kind of new age of Stanford players going to camp and being in school at the same time. And at one point we were in season playing for a national championship, and she was traveling with the U.S. team and coming back to play games with us. Talk about a mentality unlike anyone else. So impressed with her always. But yeah, another big name who's made it, making a career for herself and making a name for herself with the U.S. team. But yeah, I feel now that I think about it, I've actually played with quite a few of them, lucky enough to. And again, those are the kind of people, I was playing with them when I never considered myself to be, maybe not have my opportunity yet to play on that national team kind of stage, but then to have people around you like those who challenge you and compete and make you realize that you can be at that level as well. It's pretty crazy. I wouldn't imagine that I would have as much of the mentality that I do now if I wasn't playing with players like that.
And just finally, excuse me, just about your club in Denmark, probably not as widely known outside of Denmark as maybe some of the other established clubs, but seem to be very ambitious in terms of their targets, and brought in this fella Pierre from Brøndby and that. So can you just tell us a bit about what direction they're going, and is it a club that can meet your ambitions in terms of where you want to go with your club career?
Yeah, great question. So Hubbeker is definitely not on the map when it comes to teams, Danish teams. That's mostly because over the last 2 years, they've promoted leagues every single season. There was a project that was started that they wanted, to have a women's soccer program in Denmark that had the facilities and the staff and the resources as like a men's side team did. And they really saw that there was opportunity in Denmark to really do that and start new with a new foundation and bring that through. So, and that was in Kyra. And, it's really cool because it kind of like makes you a little bit of a dark horse, a little bit of an underdog when you're the team that's promoted each season and you're not a lot is expected of you, and you can kind of come in with high hopes. But then now to meet those high hopes, I mean, we're sitting at first in the league after the first half of the season, which is a team besides Brøndby and Fortuna not sitting at the top has basically not happened in the last 20 years. And now to have just beaten Fortuna in our first league game and to be sitting in a very, very comfortable, promising position to qualify for Champions League is massive. And I think that over the course, almost a year that I've now been with the team, I've seen that mentality of Champions League and that mentality of like every day we come in to become better and like live that professional soccer player life has only been adopted by the program from the admin side and from a player side, which is everything. I think that a lot of professional programs, especially for women, aren't entirely there to commit fully to that step. And at Hubbaker, it's been a full commitment since the beginning, and it's really shown. It's what the most special part about it is like to see that what you do every day gives you that result of where we are now. And it speaks to the players and the town and the people surrounding us who've always believed in us. And I mean, as a professional soccer player, I don't think you can ask for much more than that. So yeah, it's been very cool to kind of see the development of the team and see the future being so bright.
Great, thanks, Kyra.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, thanks very much.